Okay, friends, you have 1 minute to take your chairs, and then we'll get call the meeting to order, and our Deputy Clerk Taylor will do roll call. So 1 minute to take your chairs, please. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if we get you to take your chairs, we're going to begin our day. Thank you for assembling so quickly. We only lost about 5 minutes there. We have a very heavy agenda today of 11 motions that we have to get through. Many of them are pretty automatic, but there's going to be some debate, so every minute really matters. So we'll call the meeting back to order. I hope you all had a great night last night. Good things happened. The Riders defeated the disgusting Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And unfortunately, the Montreal Canadiens come up a little bit short. So the president's a little bit blue today. So give him space. He's recovering. So with that, we'll now get to our Deputy Clerk, Taylor Soroka, to do roll call. Taylor.
Recording in progress.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We're once again going to start off with Northern Region 1. Laura Burnoff. Laura Burnoff.
Yeah, oops. It wasn't working before.
George
Yeah,
Notamagan. Brett Angus.
Boujou.
Lorna Lavalley.
Here.
Alan Augier.
I can pronounce
Ogier.
Ogier, but close enough. Here.
Curtis Fiss. Curtis Fiss. Northern Region 2, Leonard Mongrand.
Not here yet.
Keith Shucook.
Here.
Renee Desjarlais.
Here.
Raymond Laliberty.
Here.
Violet Herman.
Here.
Philomene Sheila Cummings.
Here.
Dean Herman.
Should be here shortly.
Teresa Toulajour.
Here.
Northern Region 3, Brennan Marasti.
Good morning.
Randy Ross.
Here.
Mike Notamagan.
Yep.
Nathan Don Favel.
Danza, good morning.
Rocky Hansen. Patsy Laliberty.
Here.
Riley Couin-Nair.
Regrets.
Eugene Lafleur.
Here.
Jenny Mary Jane Sayers.
Here.
Fred Kenny. Raymond Maurice.
Regrets.
Eastern Region 3, Ryan Carrier.
Here.
Ferlin McKay.
Here.
Eastern Region 2, Brett Dignas. Ashley Boucher,
Good morning.
Christy McDonald,
Good morning.
Marilyn Eckert,
Here.
Dustin Fiddler,
Yeah.
Brenda Beliveau,
Here.
Justina Weens,
Here.
Amanda Keller-Jack, Tammy Willerton,
Here.
Roger Janae, Diane Janae,
Here.
Eastern Region 2A, Darcy Lepowick,
Good morning here.
Curtis Pelletier,
Here.
Joanna Potiandi, Derek Langen, Shandy Lays,
Here.
Corey Toth,
Here.
Bev Schaff, Abraham Martin,
Here.
Eastern Region 3, Marge Friesen,
Beaumatin.
Linda Lagasse, Liebert Portra, Linda Sopp,
Here.
Edwin Blondeau, Sheila Pelletier,
Good morning.
Tricia Nikiforuk Reset,
Good morning.
Tanya Knott Gates,
Here.
Danette Pettifer, Dexter Mondor, Western Region 1, Loretta King,
Good morning.
Dean Portra,
Here.
Stephanie Ubel,
Here.
Trish Erleshe,
Here.
Teresa Brady, Michelle Hazard,
Morning.
Valerie Bell,
Here.
Warren Boyer,
Here.
Margaret Lavoie, Sharon Wehernan,
Here.
Western Region 1A, Billy Kennedy,
Here.
Stephanie Monroe,
Good morning.
Becky Trocchi,
On her way in.
Carol Delorme,
Here.
Jordan Mahalis,
Good morning.
Western Region 2, Sherry McLennan,
Here.
Darlene McKay, Amanda Brewer,
Regrets.
Lynn Renier, Carla Hope, Victor Guyet,
Bonjour.
Wanda Neufeld, Paula Belair, Karen Rondeau,
Here.
Jennifer Gardner,
Here.
Jeanette Primo, Carrie
Regrets.
Bannerman,
Regrets.
Sheila Andrews, Jade Bowering,
Morning.
Gail Johnson, Western Region 2A, Beverly Fullerton,
Good morning.
Jocelyn Ormerod,
Good morning.
Penny Hurton, Barry Falcon,
Here.
Kim Fisher,
Beaumatin.
Barbara Card,
Good morning.
Rich Pilon,
Here.
Shirley Isbister,
Here.
Sheena Devine,
Here.
Western Region 3, Wendy Gervais,
Here.
Shea Druin,
Here.
Dennis Brooks,
Beaumatin.
Marilyn Fazekas,
Here.
Rebecca Anderson,
Here, and I need a clicker, please.
Daryl Hammond,
Here.
Les Filles de Madeleine, Darlene Langen, Gwen King, Bonnie Van Dale,
Here.
Denise McKenzie,
Here.
Nancy Duns,
Good morning.
Provincial Métis Youth Council, Rachel Frericks,
Present.
Jonah Durnan,
Ota.
Alyssa Woodrow,
Good morning.
Haley Burnoff,
Miokiksi Baya,
Zipora Petrowski,
Beaumatin,
Executive Métis Nation Saskatchewan, Glenn McCallum,
Here.
Michelle Ann Leclerc,
Beaumatin.
Marlene Hansen,
Here.
and Jeremy Denomi.
Present.
Good job, Taylor. Thank you very much. And when your cohorts come in that their name was called and they're showing up late, if you get them to just notify us so that we can add them to the roll call. To start the morning, we had promised a short update on the Lacrosse settlement, and I'm going to turn it over to
Point of
Ms.
order, Chair, quickly, Minister Fullerton.
Yes.
So just before we proceed, and thank you, but before we move into the business of the day, and as we have heard from many of our elders yesterday, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge and honor the elders joining us. Their wisdom, lived experience, and guidance are such an important part of who we are as Métis and how we govern. So it's important that we also recognize their presence while we're doing roll call. So I would like to have an introduction of our elders before we start the business of the day, please, and thank you.
They're gonna get me a list. It's gonna take a second. Oh, they can just each go around. Yeah, we'll start. Email? Yeah, just if you could pass one of the portable mics around, just say your name and where you're from, that'd be great.
Good morning. My name's Emile Janvier from Lacrosse. I'm a Dene.
Elder Frank Nadamogan, Pine House, Northern Region 3. God bless you.
Bon matin, Norman Fleury in de Sinicashon, Payek Nia, Vieux, Miochten, we tap mitek, bon matin, Rakio, Jimat Stayak, Metonikwa and Nos House, Jimarsi.
Good morning, Noreen Stephen, Western Region 3.
My name is Al Leclerc, Region 3. Thank you.
My name is Alan Morin, Sagitawa Uche Lacrosse, Naskum Tinawanus Kagisigak, Mumama Wapik. Hey.
Good morning, Karen LaRock, representing Secretary Hansen, Western Region 3.
Susan Brown, Eastern 2A.
Dennis Falcon, Youth Elder from Bigger.
Leonie Neville, Western Region 1A.
Louise Peterson, Northern Region 2, Buffalo Narrows.
Caroline Lalaberty, Western Region 2A.
Good morning, Kathy Days, Daze, I don't even know my own name, Western Region 3.
Bonjour, mon nom est Ben Smith, Western Region 2, Prince Albert, Prince Albert.
Good morning, Elder Deborah Smith, Prince Albert.
Good morning, Elder Max Morin, Northern Region 3, Lacrosse in Brendan Morassy's area. Thank you.
Margaret Harrison, Eastern Region 2, Carrot River.
Eva Pritchett, Western Region 1, Meadow Lake.
Grace Rosette, Eastern Region 3, Indian Head.
Andy Fleury, Landerberg.
Rita Ducharme, Foam Lake.
Rhonda Deserly, Eastern Region 1. Good morning.
Good morning, Sharon Nadamogan, Northern Region 1.
Dallas Scratcher, McGowan, Saskatoon.
Welcome to the elders. Thank you for joining us and providing us with your guidance. So I see Lefty President Langen has joined us. We'll add you to the roll call. So with President Langen joining us, we're at 104 delegates today. And when more come in, please have them point to me so we can get them on the list. Now I'm going to ask Minister Morassi to give us a update on the Lacrosse settlement. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, colleagues and elders, veterans, youth. So the Lacrosse residential school file has been ongoing for several decades and started way back in the late 1800s and was primarily attended by Métis, Dene, and Cree children from Saskatchewan, Alberta, and Manitoba. But recently, with the work of a steering committee that consists of about 12 to 15 survivors from across part of the north, the homeland and central part of Saskatchewan as well, they've been with the supports of our government and other different organizations and agencies fighting the battle and against the government for acknowledgement, recognition. So about April this year, March 31st was the court approval or the court hearing where Justice Wempe heard on both agreements from the feds and the provincial governments, and April 29th made her decision of approval. So we have 2 agreements from the feds, the province, at a total of $92 million in compensation and related funding. It should be known that prior to 2019, the committee, I used the term bum, beg, borrow to find the resources to do this work previously, and no fault of anybody, but that we had no resources, right? So they would take from MNC, they would take from MNS, they would take from this organization just to meet and gather and bring the file to life. But as of 2019, our Métis Nation, with the resources allotted to us, stepped up and supported the Survivors Committee with their support and did this work with the legal resources and that. So hats off to the nation, hats off to all of you for being a part of that and showing that great support for our survivors, such as Senator Morin, who sits at the table, and many others, thousands of others that have now passed. And in the words of Bridget Morin, the late Bridget Morin, she wanted us to stay alive until this compensation was recognized and acknowledged, and unfortunately she died a week before the decision was made on the federal agreement. So we honor all of those like her and the late Lawrence Morins and many others that have passed before we could get here. But we thank the leaders such as Clément Chortier, our Vice President, our President, that have done this work, have led this work with community to get us to where we are, because it does take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to lobby, negotiate, and get to where we are. But the 2 agreements, the federal agreement is for experience payments, and for 5 years or less of attendance, you will receive or be eligible to receive $10,000. For 5 years or more, students will be eligible to receive $15,000. And of course, if our survivors pass 2003 to present, they are eligible, and children such as myself can apply for, in my case, my late father. Then there's the harm done agreement with the province, and that'll have different levels of compensation. And that'll start with the basic level and then work its way up from like $50,000 to $250,000. But that'll be up to each survivor of how far they want to go. We all know the traumas and the horror that was created by these institutional concepts. So the levels of harm will depend on survivors. But the nation, the steering committee, and the legal team have committed resources and supports, health, mental health-wise, and to fill out these applications. And applications for the experience payments will go live June 1st this year. So we're a couple weeks away from walking it across the finish line officially. And more information, very detailed information, can be found online at ilecsettlement.ca. So ilecsettlement.ca. There's 2 agreements totaling $92 million, experience payments from the feds, harm done from the province, and the steering committee is continuing the work. Part of the federal agreement, there was a $10 million legacy fund, which will be used for healing and wellness community initiatives. And the steering committee has created a subcommittee that will build the governance structure of that legacy fund committee, and then there'll be applications for survivors across and other resources to apply to be a part of that board and provide resources to communities and supporting our elders, our survivors with language initiatives, community programs, healing programs. So a lot of work done. We're so close to seeing it walk across the finish line, and it is a victory in a sense, because we've been acknowledged, we've been recognized, and it's been a long time coming for our elders, for my family specifically, and many others, but my late father. And I'm very honored that I get to see this through in his name, and many of my aunts and uncles, and so on. So I thank you all for showing that support over the decades and the many years, and our nation stood tall. So on behalf of the survivors, thank you. And if you have any questions or anything like that, want to talk some more, I will be available after the assembly today. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Morasti, and congratulations to the survivors and all the hard work that went into that. Before we get into the first motion, yesterday I just need a little bit of clarification. At the ministerial portfolio vote, there was 3 people that declared conflict, and we know it was Derek Langen, President Langen, and then there was a third person. It was King. Gwen King. No, it was Gwen King. Okay, good, thank you. All right, we're gonna get into the first motion. We have 11 today, friends, so let's buckle up. All right, MNLA Act, new Article 4A, Legislative Amendment, moved by Jocelyn Omerod, Gabriel Dumont, Local 11, Western Region 2A. Seconded, Sheena Devine.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
We didn't finish out yesterday's agenda. The next thing on the agenda that we didn't deal with was constitutional reform presentation, and that is...
That was withdrawn. That was taken.
Oh,
away.
it was withdrawn. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I missed that.
Nope. Yeah,
Okay,
that's all right.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, Sheena Devine, Allen Métis Local 1885, Western Region 2A. Whereas the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly enacted the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly Act 1999, November 6, 1999. Whereas Article 11.2 states the process for legislative amendments, and whereas the current provisions of the MNLA Act do not provide a process for selecting the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and Clerk, and whereas a committee of the MNLA should be established to conduct an independent selection process for the positions of Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and Clerk of the MNLA. Therefore, be it resolved that the MNLA hereby amends the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly Act 1999 to establish a formal process for the selection and appointment of the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and Clerk by adding the following article after Article 4. Article 4A, Legislative Assembly Personnel Selection Committee. 4A, the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly shall establish a Legislative Assembly Personnel Selection Committee consisting of members of the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly recommended by the Provincial Métis Council in accordance with Article 2.5 of the Constitution of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan and Provincial Métis Council policies with authority to A, review nominations and recommend appointments of the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and Clerk in accordance with this Act, and B, appoint an interim clerk where required on a transitional basis. And be it further resolved that these amendments come into force immediately upon adoption unless otherwise specified by the MNLA. Delegate Ormerod, still so move.
Absolutely.
Delegate Devine, still so second.
Yepers.
Thank you very much. Any cares, questions, concerns? It's pretty straightforward. Okay, we have an elder that wants to speak up. Elder LaRock.
Good morning, everyone. I just have a, I guess, a friendly amendment. The word personnel doesn't sit well because they're not really personnel, they're officers of the Legislative Assembly. Can we change that word to officers?
Ms. Ormerod?
Oh, I don't know about that one, Elder LaRock. Of course, yeah, that works for me.
Okay.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. It's not Elder LaRock, it's Cookham.
Sorry, my bad. Legislative Assembly Officers Selection Committee. That satisfies, okay. Good, pretty straightforward stuff. We need a process. And I see no hands up. Oh, sorry. Treasurer Denemy.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure what the rules are around the elders being allowed to make a friendly amendment, and whether or not they're a formal member. But what I will do, Cookham, Karen, is I will ask for that friendly amendment so that we're according to our rules and our constitution.
Thank you, Michelle, for that clarification.
Yeah, thank you, Vice President. Treasurer Denemy.
This resolution is very important to be inclusive of the MNLA in the process of selecting the speaker, and is absolutely imperative for the MNLA to be included in every way and shape and form. And so I'm in total support of this resolution. And I want to call question, but because we have 11 resolutions to get through, so.
If you call a question.
No, because there's speakers.
Okay, you saw the list. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Interim President Langen.
I was just going to call question.
Okay, so question's been called. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that question. Rachel Frericks.
Rachel Frericks, thank you. So question's been called. We need a poll. We need 2/3 of the votes for question to. We'll get that poll up here. CMAC. All right, question has been passed. We'll go right into the vote for the motion now, please. Thank you. He wasn't here. All right, so passed. Thank you. Resolution number 2, MNLA Act Amendment to Article 5.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, please speak.
Sorry. I just want to follow up on something that President Hurton brought up. So I guess just in light of that, do we, like, while we're at an MNLA, do we want to establish some sort of a process for call of, like, interest for members who might be interested, so that potentially at the next PMC meeting, this committee can be established?
Okay, at the next PMC? Like, I'm sorry.
Well, sorry. So should we do some sort of call of interest at this MNLA for like members of the MNLA that may be interested, so that at the next PMC
they can consider the names.
Exactly.
Okay, good idea. Anybody who would be, so can we do a on carte blanche for the next 4? Because I think they all have committees, do they not? No, just this one?
They all relate back to this committee.
Okay, cool. So, can we maybe just do a show of hands right now? Oh, how about this? Can whoever's interested email the office of the clerk? And we will make that email up there after the break, and then expressions of interest go to that. Much easier. Thank you, Ms. Ormerod. Very sharp observation. All right, MNLA Act Amendment to Article 5, Legislative Amendment, moved by Jocelyn Ormerod, Gabriel Dumont, Local 11, Western Region 2A. Seconded, Sheena Devine, Alan Métis, Local 1885, Western Region 2A. Whereas the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly enacted the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly Act 1999, November 6, 1999. Whereas Article 11.2 states the process for legislative amendments, and whereas the current provisions of the MNLA Act do not sufficiently outline a transparent and standardized process for the recommendation and selection of the Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the MNLA. And whereas the role of the Speaker and Deputy Speaker is fundamental to ensuring impartiality, procedural fairness, and the orderly conduct of MNLA proceedings. Therefore, be it resolved that the MNLA hereby amends the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly Act 1999 to establish a formal process for the selection and appointment of the Speaker and Deputy Speaker by striking out Article 5.1 and substituting the following. 5.1. Be selected through a selection process as follows. The clerk shall issue a call for nominations to members of the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly 6 months prior to the end of the current Speaker's or Deputy Speaker's appointment. B. Nominees for Speaker or Deputy Speaker may include members of the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly or external candidates with a preference for those who are registered citizens of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan who are able to act impartially, there's a bit of a typo there, and have governance experience and knowledge of procedural rules. C, the Legislative Assembly Personnel Selection Committee, established pursuant to Article 4A, shall review nominations and recommend appointments. D, the recommended candidate shall be presented to the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly for appointment by resolution. E, where a member of the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly is appointed as Speaker or Deputy Speaker, they may only vote in the case of a tie. And F, the term of appointment for the Speaker or Deputy Speaker is 2 years, subject to reappointment. And be it further resolved that these amendments come into force immediately upon adoption unless otherwise specified by the MNLA. Delegate Ormerod, still so move.
I do, and I do have a slight amendment.
Thank you. Ms. Devine, still so move. Your second.
Yep, I do want to make an amendment, but I think we might be on the same page. You go first. Just to correct the name of the committee to officer. Oh, okay. What's yours?
So what was the fix you needed?
On C, the Legislative Assembly officer selection.
Okay.
Just to match what we changed
Yep.
from the last resolution.
Officers, gotcha. Was that what you wanted to do, Ms. Ormerod, too?
No, so I wanted to add a B, C, D, E, F, G, a clause G, because we found ourselves in the exact situation that I want to address yesterday at this MNLA, where we were in a bit of a pinch and we didn't have a deputy speaker. If we find ourselves in a pinch where we don't have a speaker, I think we need some sort of a clause to deal with that. So it might just be like, G, in the case of an emergency, the 6 month notice nomination period may not apply for an interim speaker to only sit at one MNLA, or something along those likes, if policy can.
Okay. Sure, they'll word it accordingly and do that. Okay, while they're figuring out the wording, I see there's a couple of folks that have questions, so we'll go Minister Friesen. Oh, sorry, I didn't see the list was up there already. If you could add Minister Friesen and Tanya Null Gates to it as well. Minister Gervais.
Thank you, Speaker. I would actually ask the mover and seconder if they would be willing to make a little bit of a friendly amendment. When I look at B, it states, may include members of the Métis Legislative Assembly, And I think yesterday we spent a lot of time in discussion of who could or shouldn't and the conflicts and everything. So I really think, I'm hoping anyway, that Member Amarad and Member Devine would look at removing the members of the Legislative Assembly. We have to look at impartiality. And then when I look at the one clause here, the one section where they would be actually the tiebreaker if a vote should be held, that becomes very difficult, and it could be a perceived conflict. So I'd ask for a friendly amendment. I don't think that it should be anyone from the MNLA. Thank you.
Ms. Ormerod?
Yes, I'm willing to accept it kind of with a bit of a caveat where, like, the only time that I really see this coming into play is if there's an emergency, where we might have to appoint somebody from, like we found yesterday. So I don't know if we can even just kind of take members of the MNLA, the duty, so it'll be nominees for speaker, deputy speaker, will be an external candidates with a preference, so just cut out may include members. But I think that, like, with the emergency appointment, that's maybe where that might fit. What are your thoughts, Member Gervais?
Ms. Gervais?
Oh, sorry, I thought she was referencing the seconder. I would think that maybe we could have a rolling list. So if we have citizens or whoever who have applied for this position, we just keep up a rolling list and maybe contact them, ask them if they would be interested if being on that list for emergency purposes. We just dealt with this yesterday and we don't want to deal with this again.
Right. Okay. Does that work for the mover and seconder?
Yeah, if we can work in that kind of like emergency possibility list somewhere in there, I'm loving.
In G?
Yeah, exactly that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yep, same with me.
Thank you.
Okay, they're working on typing that in. Vice President Leclerc.
Yeah, while they're working on that, I'm going to ask for a friendly amendment to the mover and seconder, where it says with preference for those who are registered citizens of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan. We have over 40,000 registered citizens and 60,000, 65,000 Métis persons in this province. I would ask the mover and seconder to consider taking out with preference for and shall, pardon me, shall be a registered Métis citizen. We've got a ton of very capable Métis people in this province, and I would say shall be a registered Métis citizen.
This was language that we had gone back and forth on when we put this forward. I think, like, I really do understand this amendment. But I think too, like, when we talk about conflict, and there's lots of us, absolutely, but when we start qualifying what we're looking for in a speaker, it might reduce that list to a list that has conflicts. Whereas we've had some really fantastic allies support us through our work through our nation. So I think we absolutely should be giving preference, and, like, yes, if there's like first qualified Métis person, yes, no worries. But I worry about the potential conflict that may arise at some point, not saying that it's there right now, not saying that it's going to happen at any point, but it's kind of future-proofing that for us. And if we get to the time that we want to do that, like, we absolutely can make that further amendment. But I think preference at this time right now leaves us with a little bit more open of an opportunity. So I would deny that friendly amendment.
Okay. Thank you. Minister Friesen.
Thank you, Chair. I am in agreement to the resolution. I'm in favor. However, I do ask that for a friendly amendment. And thank you, Minister Gervais, for pointing that out. That was also my observation. However, can we also include a terms of reference for the selection committee? That would...
These folks say they'll do that at the PMC when
Okay.
it's attached to them.
And nomination criteria. Thank you.
Okay.
Can we potentially add in, because to me, the terms of reference for the committee should have been tacked on to the last resolution, and that's just an oversight on all of our parts, if I'm being honest. But we could potentially, like, I think we should put in further be it resolved that that the PMC or that the personnel committee, that's who it should be, the officers committee, sorry, should come up with that nomination criteria for presentation to the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly or ratified by the Métis Nation. That, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, right on. She's verbing it up as we speak. Thank you. Tanya Nalkates.
I speak in favor of this, but I'd like to make one, it's just a minor grammatical error in B, or I perceive it as a grammatical error. Registered citizens of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan who are able to act either with impartiality or act impartially. Yeah.
We can just make it impartially. I think that makes sense. Does that work?
Yeah.
Perfect. Accepted.
Yep.
Excellent. Impartially. Okay. Yeah, she's just still clacking away there. Trying to keep up, man. Minister Miraste. And
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, colleagues. I am in favor of this motion, and our ministry will give you all the resources and supports you need. I call question.
And community, we're at the end of the list, so we don't have to vote. And just, I want to wait for the amendments to be there so that our mover and seconder are comfortable with the friendlies that are on there.
Mr. Chair, I missed roll call, Derek
Yeah,
Langen.
I saw you come in. We added you to it.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
Yeah, welcome back. Sorry, President Langen, I saw you, you weren't on the list when he called question. Atta go. All right, that's good stuff. Oh, okay, yeah. Elder Max.
Yeah, just to think about it, doesn't have to happen right away, but as elders, we sit here, we could give you guys advice and stuff like that, but because you guys are local presidents, just to make sure our organization moves forward instead of backwards, so we don't continue fighting amongst each other. Those are the kind of things that we could give advice, but just like we're just sitting here, not being involved, not being included in the decision-making process. And as elders, we should be consulted and all at the same time give you guys some opinions on what we like to see, yeah? But for the best interest of our Métis people and our organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. So, Sheila, Ms. Devine, yeah.
Just watching the changes, and I think we changed it from who may be a member of the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly to the running list instead of picking from the MNLA in G.
G. In case of an emergency, 6 months notice, the Legislative Assembly may appoint a speaker or deputy speaker on an interim basis who may be a member of the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly. So what are we supposed to do?
So instead of picking from the MNLA, we were going to have like kind of a running backup list.
Okay.
To avoid conflict.
Can they put that part in like the terms of reference of the committee, like to create that list in, or do you need it in the motion? Because this is legislation, right? So, yeah, and then we'd have to remove members of the MNLA totally, right?
Can it have something about like who have already been vetted by the officers selection committee?
Or recommended?
Works.
Okay. She's typing away there. Okay, and I see Minister Montgrand has joined us as well, and Dean Herman? Dean Herman's joined us as well. Okay, thank you. We'll get you added to that roll call. Well, I'll give you a new number here right away as soon as we're done this vote. So my movers and seconders, you're good with. Mover and seconder, you're good with. Okay, thumbs up.
Sorry, just a clarification. I thought we were removing who may be a member of the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly. Like that.
Yes.
Go back down to G.
Can you go down to G? Oh, didn't.
Go to G.
Can you scroll up a bit, please? There we go.
So the bottom part of that, where it says who may be a member of the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly, it was my understanding that part was going to be removed. And it was just going to say who are recommended by the Legislative Assembly Officer Selection Committee.
Okay, so remove a member of the MNLA. Okay.
Yeah, works for us.
He's good? All right, let's vote on this thing.
Point of order, do we vote on question first?
He had called question, there was no one on the list. So if
Yeah,
there's
but
no one.
somebody question, I thought we usually vote on question first and then on the resolution.
But, well,
Okay.
question was called, but there was no one on the list, and
Okay,
then Ms.
good.
Langen was on the list, and she was gonna call question, so. All right, we'll get the poll up for voting on this resolution to amend, article. That one, there it is.
Point of order, I noticed that it still says, it's hard to see now that you guys zoomed out, where a member of the Legislative Assembly is appointed as a speaker or deputy speaker, they may only vote in the case of a tie, and I thought we were removing that.
Okay,
Oh, sorry, this was Ashley Boucher.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
make sure that I acknowledge you when you say point of order, just so I can,
Sorry.
that's all right. So is there something that needed to be tweaked there? Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. So where is the redundancy?
It's point E.
In B?
E.
E, sorry.
As an egg.
And then I would imagine we'll probably re-letter, so then it would be,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
skid E altogether, right?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Just point of order, Mr. Chair. Can we take that poll down until we're finished all
Yep.
of the revisions?
Yep,
And I
thank you.
think it would be wise to read it back into the record and then vote on it.
Yep. Just F is E and G is F. Okay, all right, I'm gonna read it from the top, just so we're clear. Okay, if I'm just gonna do the therefore, okay. Therefore be resolved that the MNLA hereby amends the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly Act 1999 to establish a formal process for the selection and appointment of the Speaker and Deputy Speaker by striking out Article 5.1 and substituting the following. 5.1, be selected through a selection process as follows. A, the clerk shall issue a call for nominations to members of the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly 6 months prior to the end of the current Speaker's or Deputy Speaker's appointment. B, nominees for Speaker or Deputy Speaker will be external candidates with a preference for those who are registered citizens of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan who are able to act impartially and have governance experience and knowledge of procedural rules. C, the Legislative Assembly Officers Selection Committee, established pursuant to Article 4A, shall review nominations and recommend appointments. D, the recommended candidate shall be presented to the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly for appointment by resolution. E, the term of appointment for the Speaker or Deputy Speaker is 2 years, subject to reappointment. F, In the case of an emergency and 6 months' notice is not possible, the Legislative Assembly Officers Selection Committee may recommend the appointment of a Speaker or Deputy Speaker on an interim basis based on the recommendation of the Legislative Assembly Officers Selection Committee. And be it further resolved that these amendments come into force immediately upon adoption unless otherwise specified by the MNLA. Further be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly Officers Committee shall establish terms of reference that will be approved by the Provincial Métis Council and ratified by the MNLA, and the terms of reference shall include the establishment of criteria for the roles of Speaker and Deputy Speaker.
There's just one slight grammar thing.
Okay, where
On
at?
the tail end of E, because we removed some clauses, it should be semicolon and. There we go.
Good catch. All right, folks. Mover and seconder are good? Thank you. Now we'll bring up the poll to vote. Okay, that's what we had yesterday too. Mhm. Yeah, they'll make sure that the amended resolutions will be uploaded into your folder. Okay. So passed. Well done. And with the folks that have arrived now, we're at 108. All right. MNLA Act Amendment to Article 6. Legislative amendment moved by Jocelyn Omerod. Gabriel Dumont, Local 11, Western Region 2A. Seconded, Sheena Devine, Alan Métis, Local 1885, Western Region 2A. Whereas the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly enacted the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly Act 1999, November 6, 1999. Whereas Article 11.2 states the process for legislative amendments, and whereas the current provisions of the MNLA Act state that the clerk of the MNLA is the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan, which creates a conflict between legislative independence and executive administration. And whereas best practices in governance require a clear separation between legislative and executive functions to ensure independence, accountability, and integrity of proceedings. Therefore, be it resolved that the MNLA hereby amends the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly Act 1999 to establish a formal process for the selection and appointment of the clerk by striking out Article 6.1 and substituting the following. 6.1, be an independent legislative position responsible to the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly, selected through a selection process as follows. A, the Speaker shall issue a call for nominations to members of the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly every 4 years thereafter, or within 30 days of whenever the office of clerk becomes vacant. B, nominees for clerk must be able to act impartially and have governance experience and knowledge of procedural rules and preferences will be given to those who are registered citizens of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan. C, the Legislative Assembly Officers Selection Committee, established pursuant to Article 4A, shall review nominations and recommend appointments. D, the recommended candidates shall be presented to the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly for appointment by resolution. E, the term of appointment for the clerk will be 4 years, subject to reappointment. And F, the clerk shall operate independently from executive administration functions, ensuring a clear distinction between legislative and administrative roles within the Métis Nation Saskatchewan governance structure. And be it further resolved that these amendments come into force immediately upon adoption unless otherwise specified by the MNLA. And be it further resolved that the Speaker must issue a call for nominations for the office of the clerk to the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly no later than June 1, 2026. Delegate Omerod, still so moved.
I do, and I have an amendment.
Gotcha. Ms. Devine, still so second.
Yes.
Thank you. The fix?
So one of the things that came up as we were talking about these resolutions was who does what. And I think, and it's of no disrespect to the speaker, but I feel like it's putting them in kind of a weird situation to have them in the legislation in this way. So my amendment would be that the president of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan shall issue a call for nominations to members of the MNLA.
Yeah. Okay, so that's in A.
And then it would also be the, at the last end, be it further resolved that the speaker must issue a call.
Okay. And then there was that impartiality thing again there, where it should be impartially. Okay, she fixed that. All right, speakers list. Vice President Leclerc.
Thank you, and thank you for that one amendment, because I was going to suggest something similar. I just have a couple of questions, and I can absolutely support this resolution. We've talked about the independence of the clerk over the last number of years, and so it's timely. But the clerk has an obligation to collect documentation from locals. When was your last election? Who is your president? How many members do you have? All of that information. Are you in good standing with the Nonprofits Corporation Act, or have you been struck? There's a whole number of documents that come to the clerk that are called for before. And I guess my question would be, and I'm not sure how you would have this as part of your resolution, but I would ask you to think about a friendly amendment about where is the repository of documents? What happens to them? Because I know in the past, it was the job of the secretary, for instance, to collect all that information, and nobody knew where it went. And so I put that to the mover and seconder, Mr. Chair, to see what their thoughts are on that. Other than that, I am in complete support of this resolution.
So currently, all that goes now to our governance folks.
Thank you for that comment, Mr. Chair. But that if the clerk is completely independent, then what happens to the documentation that they collect? And I think there's issues around privacy and all of those sorts of things that we need to consider. So that's why I put it to the mover and seconder, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Yeah. Ms. Ormerod, Devine, okay. Just noodling.
I wonder if I can put this to the mover and seconder, Mr. Chair. What about the establishment of the office of the clerk? And where that would sit, I'm not sure. Maybe you've got some good ideas around that. So maybe if you can consider that when you respond. Thank you.
So we're agreeing. we're not disagreeing with this friendly amendment. It's just a matter of figuring out where that fits in. But you know, you brought up the role of the secretary, and we now have a secretary that's been appointed, the Ministry of Locals and Communities. And so I wonder if that's something that we can add in here somewhere, that the clerk will work with the secretary in regards to the documentation requirements, because then at least it's sitting with an elected official, and that's there's accountability there to the citizens and to the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly from an elected position. But I don't know. Does that?
Mr. Chair, I wonder, Jocelyn, I think Heather's working on something, and maybe we can discuss it a little bit further in a minute.
Ms. Ormerod and Devine, there's a further be it resolved there that might solve the situation that Vice President brought forward.
Can we include, like, so where I'm kind of seeing it would be, it would be similar to the registry, where the office would be arm's length. So can we include some sort of verbiage about that separation? Like, they're still a part of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan. We can't get away from it, but it's going to be arm's length.
Right there, does that work? An arm's length office of the clerk?
That works for me.
Right on, and the rest?
Yep.
Does that satisfy your friendly amendment, Vice President?
Can you just read it? My
Sure.
eyes aren't as good as
Okay.
some.
Further be it resolved that the MNS shall establish an arm's length office of the clerk, which shall ensure that there's an extra there, that the legislative record of the MNS government is maintained in accordance with records management and privacy policies and best practices and in alignment with the oversight required by the MNLA Act.
Yeah, I think that works for me.
Mover.
Thank you, mover and seconder.
Mover and seconder, you're good? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, Minister Gervais.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think VP Leclerc had actually mentioned a couple of my concerns. However, I'd just like clarification because we were talking about the duties of the clerk, and then we were talking about, Member Almorad mentioned something about the duties of the secretary. So the MNLA Act that correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing in the MNLA Act that states the clerk is responsible for collecting and maintaining any records from the locals or the regions or anything, if I'm correct. I'm looking at it right now, and it just talks about really the order of the day. I don't know where that got convoluted over the last few years, and I don't think the Constitution says anything unless it says it under the locals, so I'm not sure if somebody could point that out. And there's always been a confusion because our secretary and our Constitution doesn't have an actual job description. However, over the years, past practice, which we've used, past practice, our secretary has always supported the registry. Now we've moved that away, but they've supported the locals and the regions, which is now what Secretary Hansen is doing. So I'm just wondering, Member Almorad, if we could, I know what you're trying to do, and I think that's great because that supports our executive as well. So is there some way we could fit that in where, because the current MNLA Act does not state that the clerk is in charge of any of that documentation.
Ms. Ormerod.
Just to respond to that, you're exactly correct, Minister Gervais. This was developed in anticipation of that constitutional reform coming forward, which would have the clerk, it was changing some wording from head office to clerk. So yeah, I see that. So what would the friendly amendment be in this case, sorry?
Well, I think the friendly amendment would be, so it's kind of a crossover because VP Leclerc had mentioned the clerk was responsible for certain duties. And I know VP Leclerc was referencing what's transpired in the last few years. I know that. And so it's just trying to clarify so we don't have an overreach of the different bodies, what's transpired. That created confusion for our locals, for our regions, send stuff here, send stuff there. So I'm wondering if we could put in here something to do with, I don't know what the amendment would say, something to do with what you were just stating about the secretary. Whereas the secretary's duties, because really, if we look at the secretary's duties, they're in charge of that, right? And if we put it in the MNLA Act that the clerk maybe works with the Secretary of Métis Nation Saskatchewan to maintain the records of the locals and the regions. Because we're adding duties right now to the clerk that are not in the MNLA Act. We've just added duties in that are not in the MNLA Act. They're duties that past practice that our secretary used to take on. And I understand and respect what VP Leclerc was saying. What we need, and I think what she's referencing, is we need a repository, a safe space where that information can be held. But I think we need to be very clear in light of some of the concerns we've had here where documents are flying all over the place. I don't know if I feel comfortable supporting a resolution where a clerk is the only one in charge or is, has sole custody of those documents. I think we need to separate it, but we still need to be engaged and involved in it.
Thank you, Minister.
Okay, I have some thoughts here. So just thinking back to what I know of our Constitution, technically this wouldn't be in contravention of our Constitution because what it says in a lot of the cases that we're referring to, Minister Gervais, is things are sent into the head office, but it's not further defined to me, and so to me that very much could be the secretary. What I'm going to say is that I'm going to decline the friendly amendment, but I'm going to explain more. I'm going to decline the friendly amendment, and I'm going to encourage you to move to amend the motion to state that, because at the end of the day, to me, defining the role of the secretary, isn't up to Member Devine and myself. I think it's the will of the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly on if you want it in this resolution. So I'm going to decline your friendly amendment so that we can put this to a vote on whether the MNLA wants to accept defining roles of the secretary. Thanks.
Okay, so we would need a precise motion from you, Minister Gervais, as to how that would.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a friendly amendment then. I'm going to go back to an arm's length office of the clerk, which shall ensure that the legislative records of the MNS government, I guess I'm going to state it, I do not believe that that should be in there. We're creating a whole separate office now where basically an external is going to be in charge of our documents. And I'm just saying it's creating confusion. It's created confusion over the last few years. Whether we define the secretary has that information right now, that's another thing. So I'm not sure if the mover and seconder are already willing to remove that.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Point of order. If I may, to the mover and seconder, due to yesterday's resolution on a full constitutional reform and the reset, I would ask the mover and seconder to table this resolution so we're not rushing and that we go through a process that includes our citizens, our locals and presidents and regions, and we allow that process to fulfill and identify the roles and responsibilities of locals and everybody a part of our government. So due to yesterday's motion, Mr. Chair, mover, seconder, colleagues, I ask that we table this resolution. Thank you.
Ms. Ormerod?
I'm not willing to table it, but Member Devine has a good, maybe middle place that we can come to.
Okay, so we'll hear from Ms. Devine, then we're going to break for our health break, and then we'll come back. So Ms. Devine, your point, and then we'll come back to the speakers list.
Okay, I'm just wondering if that last further be it resolved, if we can establish an interim arm's length office of the clerk while we prioritize that within our constitutional reform discussions.
That's, does that accommodate your concerns, Minister Gervais? Interim, and then that way, as the constitutional.
I think my concern is, and so maybe we'll just take a break and then how I can discuss with the mover and seconder. My concern is an overreach of an external body. We've experienced that time and time again over the last several years, and that's my concern.
Okay. Well, let's take a break. If you guys can have a little chat, and we'll pick that up when we come back. So we're going to take 15. And again, folks, delegates and elders first. We're at break. Is it something for this debate, or is it about the break, elders? Okay. Okay, yeah, what can I do for you? Okay. So please, elders and delegates first before our visitors, and 15-minute break. Thank you.
I think it's something that needs to be dealt with by the Assembly, but I'm prepared to wait. It's got nothing to do with the motion.
After the break.
After the break would be perfect. Thank you.
The reason for this gathering is because the Saskatchewan River Delta has been suffering for many years ecologically. Many community members express a need for more water in the Delta and a loss of wildlife, as well as a change to their lifestyle and their community's lifestyle.
Not much future to depend on any of the waterways here.
The Indigenous Protected Area, or IPA, is what we're striving for the saving of the Cumberland House Delta. But it gives us the power to take ownership of that.
And the water was so clear, and there wasn't that many willows all over. Before there was no sandbars, and now you can see a big sandbar, you can see rocks, and the water is just going down.
My vision for the future of the Saskatchewan River Delta is having adequate water flowing through the Saskatchewan River and into the entire Delta. Being from the Cumberland House Delta, we'll be able to take ownership of the Delta and its stewardship.
People here have a very strong pride for living in the Saskatchewan River Delta, and they have a deep sense of hope for what the future of this land and future of their territory can be.
With our trappers, we need to keep on advocating, we need to keep bringing them to the table, but we also somehow we need to get across to the government that they need to bring policy or make changes where they protect the Delta. They got to put it in place. It's very important to keep up our cultural, our traditions. Those are a part of our values, and that's what's missing in kids nowadays.
The Saskatchewan River Delta has been overmanaged to a point that it's not what it was, and we hear the stories of elders and we can read about it because many elders in this community have actually written books about their experiences growing up.
Cumberland was one of the best places you could ever live as far as hunting. Say, when I was young, I went with my dad trapping, and I enjoyed it there too.
So over the years, he could see all the devastation that happened since, way back in the 60s.
The dams that are affecting us the most primarily is the last dam that's in the Saskatchewan River Delta, is the E.B. Campbell Dam. With that comes detrimental effects of low water levels and sometimes really drastic level changes within a few hours. Their usual little lakes and streams that they do travel in, they're drying up. It's where you can't even go into your trap lines because either too dangerous with the fluctuating waterways or just not enough water for you to even travel to certain spots, and it's just not worthwhile anymore to actually go out. So, it's something we really need to cherish and keep for future generations to see.
They need to hear the stories. They need to relearn, even in school, they need to learn these things, how the life was and how good it was and how we can try to bring that back. But they need to know their roots.
We're going to commence in 2 minutes, folks. Commencing in 2 minutes. One minute. Delegates, please return to your seats. Okay, delegates, grab your chairs. We're going to be in 20 seconds. Okay, folks, welcome back. We're going to proceed again. And I have to acknowledge the elders table. They are waving at me there. Yes, if we get a microphone to the elder that wanted to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're welcome. Please,
Kathy,
if we could get quiet, please. The elder is speaking. Sorry, go ahead.
Kathy Daze from Western Regional 3. I'm not speaking to the amendment or anything like that, but I have a situation that I think that the Assembly needs to consider and deal with by the end of the day. I think everybody is aware that at the last Assembly, our elder Noreen Stephen was egregiously insulted when her Métis citizenship was called into question. Nobody acknowledged that. Well, I'm sorry, that was acknowledged, but she never got an apology from this Assembly. And I think if we're serious about showing respect to our elders, that we very much owe Noreen that apology. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, and I'll poke around and make sure that gets done. Mr. Gervais.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Wendy Gervais, elected regional representative, Western Region 3. Noreen is an elder from my region. I was not able to be here at the last Assembly, the last two, when there were concerns and issues that were raised regarding my elder, Noreen. Is Noreen here right now?
Yes.
Where are you, Noreen?
She's right there.
Noreen, could you please stand up? Thank you for standing, Noreen. So I know we don't have everybody in here right now, excuse me, from the Assembly, but as the elected regional representative, I would like to extend my apologies to you on behalf of this Assembly. And I know once the President comes back, we have VP Leclerc and Secretary Hansen and as well Treasurer Denemy, I know that they too will extend their apologies. But on behalf of the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly, on behalf of our region, Western Region 3, and on behalf of myself as the elected leader, I am sorry that you had to experience that. Never again will that happen here. Thank you.
Thank you. So during the break, I guess there was some sort of resolution around the resolution. So I'm going to turn it to Delegate Ormerod for some explanation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. With bringing forward this resolution, I think we're getting a little, we're losing the intent of the resolution. The intent really at the end of the day is to separate, and it's something that I know we're all hearing and we're all seeing, is that separation of our legislative assembly, the clerk's role, and our chief executive officer. We're hearing it, we're seeing changes in our government, and I come back to the words that President McCallum shared at the beginning of our legislative assembly. We're coming to a reset, right? And I know that a reset can be scary, and I know that people want to see different things out of this. But that's really the intent of this amendment, is that we have that reset, we create that separation. And at the next MNLA, we can further change this article. Like, we're the legislators, it's within our authority, it's within our mandate to do so. But this is that first step of bringing our nation back to us and bringing us back to where we need to be and giving us our authority back as the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly. So I think once the resolution's brought up, I think there's maybe some things that we can further change. But I do want to say, you know, I've always upheld our Constitution, and that's where I'm aiming to get us. With this resolution, I mean, we are, Sheena and myself, but I don't want to get into the weeds of further defining things that are outside of the intent of this. The intent is to pull the clerk and the CEO apart, and then just create a way further, a way ahead, a process, a procedure, a mechanism to make that appointment of our clerk, so that we have that person who is truly responsible to us at the MNLA. Thank you.
Thank you. Speakers list. Rebecca Anderson.
Sorry, before my time starts, can we just get a clarification on what changes have been made to the resolution then?
They're up. Yeah, we'll get it back up again, please. So in the red, it was like the president issues the call, and then also in A, the president shall issue a call. Okay, good. And then change to officers, president, and then the further be it resolved regarding the arm's length office of the clerk to ensure the legislative record is maintained in accordance. That's where we're at.
So where we kind of ended up, and Minister Friesen is going to make a friendly amendment a little bit later, as long as we don't call question. That's going to better explain this than I can, because I don't know the inner workings as an MNLA member. But essentially, it's not within, like, I believe that it's the clerk only has the responsibilities of the minutes and the order of the day and the agenda as such. So maybe what we can do is if it makes sense to Minister Friesen, can we just fully pull the further be it resolved here and then add in that piece that we had discussed later? Does that make more sense? Okay, I'm willing to pull that. Sheena, what are your thoughts?
Yep, I'm okay with that.
Okay, thank you. So back to Rebecca Anderson.
Thanks. I didn't want that to use up my 2 minutes. So.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So I want to speak in favor of this resolution. I think that as we move towards our legislative branch, having that full autonomy, it's going to take a little bit for everyone to get their heads wrapped around what that actually looks like. And so this just helps to achieve a process that we're not going to have that conflict or that overreach that happens in the future. I think a lot of the question that happened before our health break had to do with the fact that we don't have a clear understanding and a clear list of the roles and responsibilities of our executive branch. We need some terms that outline those processes or those responsibilities, and also what resources are available to them. Because we've discussed in the past, and there's, you know, there's the assumption that there's resources that need to go with this. So there's all these questioning pieces. Okay, so we separate the clerk. It's no longer the CEO role. Well, you get into some things that need to be addressed there as far as logistics, and that's, okay, what about software requirements? What about technical requirements? What about, you know, the time that they have to use? So there's a lot of questions, but the intent of this, as I see it, is to just separate that and create a process for us to be part of that selection process. And so I do speak strongly in favor, because as a sitting member of this Legislative Assembly, I think it's important for us to understand our role is to have that authority within our own government, which we are part of. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Anderson. Treasurer Denemy.
In hearing from President Omerod, I would defer my comment to Minister Friesen, as she has a solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. Minister Friesen.
Thank you, Treasurer Denemy, and thank you, members who bring the resolution forward. The friendly amendment that Member Omrod is referring to is this. So I understand everyone's comments and concerns with the role of the Office of the Clerk. Number one, it has to be adequately resourced, and number two, it has to be supported administratively, because the Office of the Clerk also stewards our documents. There is, of course, criteria for all legislative members to be sitting here. You have to, there's a number of items that you have to consider when you're sitting here as a member of the legislature. So having said that, I'm not in agreement to attaching the Office of the Clerk or the Clerk's role to a member of the MNLA, such as the Secretary, because of the political attachment it has. However, it still needs to be attached to legislative services and have an administrative function for that reason. So having said that, I'd like the friendly amendment to be separate from the MNLA and have an administrative function as Office of the Clerk who stewards the documents for each local or for each MNLA member, and be a part of legislative services for that supportive component or that supportive mechanism, because I agree with Member Anderson, there has to be an arm's length, yes, but there has to be a legitimate function for the Office of the Clerk and the Clerk. So, and I'm also referring to the role and responsibility of the Clerk, and that could be further defined by the committee and then brought back to the MNLA for ratification. I know that was long-winded, but you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think they captured it within a couple sentences
Okay,
there, and it's
thank
just
you.
being put up on the screen. So it'd be that legislative services M&S will be responsible for administrative support for the clerk, including the maintenance of records of the Legislative Assembly. Ms. Ormerod and Devine.
Can it say of the Legislative Assembly as outlined in the MNLA Act? Otherwise, I will accept that friendly amendment.
As in alignment with the does that work? MNLA Act?
Yep, works.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Penny Hurton. Mike. Okay, she delegated her time to Shirley Eisbister.
Good morning. Thanks, Mark, for saying that, because I was more in favor of tabling it. I think one of my biggest concerns with both of these motions is that it's not mandatory that these positions be M&S citizens. And I look at it with the evolution of time, you know, in 10 years, we could have all non-Métis citizens on that list, which is not going to be good for our government. So I'm concerned about that. The other thing is with all these resolutions, the PMC is excluded. And they're elected positions. They do have legitimate functions, but we're bypassing the Provincial Métis Council, who were elected by the province, not just by us. I think that privacy is number one, because we send in secure information, and we need to ensure that it's kept secure. In the old days, this was part of the Secretary's position, and I don't know why that can't happen now, that could become under the Secretary's role, just like at one time registry was under the Secretary's role. So for those reasons, I agree with President Minister Morasti that we table this until some of these things can be settled, because this concerns all of our nation, not just all of us sitting here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I really do appreciate your concerns, President Eisbister. So I do just want to be very, very clear that in that further be it resolved that we just accepted as a friendly amendment, within the MNLA Act, the clerk is actually responsible for very few things. I think they're responsible for the minutes, like getting certified minutes. They're responsible for compiling the order of the day, the documents that are a part of the order of the day, and then they'll compile the agenda based on recommendations of the Provincial Métis Council. It's actually within the Constitution, which we aren't touching at all in this resolution, that it states that the head office will receive membership lists, AGM minutes, things like that. So realistically, this isn't touching any of that, but I do completely understand those concerns. And it sounds like maybe in the work that we started yesterday, that we will be looking at some of these things, because that really does need to be fixed. We need definitions and structure about where all of our documentation is going, because that's sensitive information of our citizens and our members. But that's not within this resolution at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Dennis Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the thing that I was concerned with has been dealt with in the first further be it resolved that was removed. It was kind of creeping into procedure rather than policy. So like the where and how something is stored, that is something you put in a procedure and not necessarily in a policy. So maybe let's just keep our eye on that sort of thing. And other than that, I support it, and I want to thank our speaker for not doing anything dangerous like getting into a neck bone eating contest, so that we still have him here today. Thank you.
I saved that for September. Thank you very much. Treasurer Denemy.
Mr. Speaker, citizens and members of the Assembly, I strongly support this resolution. At the heart of this amendment is inclusion. Inclusion of this Assembly, inclusion of our elected delegates, inclusion of the voices that make up the supreme body of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan. The clerk of the MNLA should serve the MNLA. That role must be independent, impartial, and accountable to this Assembly. When the same office is connected too closely to executive administration, it has created concerns around independence, process, and confidence in our proceedings. This resolution creates a fair and transparent process. It allows for nominations to come forward. It requires a review through the Legislative Assembly Officer Selection Committee. It brings the final appointment back to the MNLA by resolution. That means that the Assembly has a real voice. That means our citizens, through their delegates, have a real voice. This is about strengthening our governance, protecting our legislative independence, and ensuring that our Assembly operates with integrity, transparency, and accountability. And as Treasurer, I believe that strong governance begins with strong democratic governance. Clear roles, clear authority, clear accountability. This resolution moves us in that direction, and I respectfully ask this Assembly to support it. And with that, I call question. Thank you.
Question's been called. Could I have a seconder?
I'll second that, Rachel Frericks.
Name, please. Oh, thank you, Youth President Frericks. So question's been called. Could we get the question poll, please? So question has been called, and we will now proceed to the vote on that motion. There you go. Amendment to Article 6. Okay, with who? Laura LaValle? Mark, can you give this to? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So carried. All right. This next one should be, I'll just state, MNLA Act Article 2 Amendment, Legislative Amendment, moved by Jocelyn Ormerod, Gabrielle Dumont, Local 11, Western Region 2A. Seconded, Sheila Andrews, Nordale, Local 109, Western Region 2. Whereas the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly ratified the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan Legislative Assembly Act November 6, 1996. Whereas Article 11.2 states the process for legislative amendments, whereas the current language in the MNLA Act is vague and creates confusion amongst the MNLA. Therefore, be it resolved that the MNLA hereby amends Article 2, Interpretation, to include 2.3, Agenda, shall mean the structured outline or sequence of business to be considered by the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly, setting out the order in which items listed within the order of the day are to be addressed during a sitting of the MNLA. Further be resolved that this amendment come into force immediately upon adoption unless otherwise specified by the MNLA. Delegate Ormerod, still so move.
Absolutely.
Delegate Andrews, still so second.
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. Wow. Was that, oh, my mic's on, sorry. That was out loud. Okay, proceed to vote, please.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, who's?
when we're done,
Oh, yes, Penny.
could you please read out the number up there because I can't see it here.
Okay, yes,
you.
you betcha, sorry. So carried, 94 for, 2 against. Next up, resolution to reaffirm and strengthen Métis Nation Saskatchewan citizens' Section 35 rights to harvest, hunt, trap, and fish. Subject, harvesting legislation. Moved by Minister Darcy Lepwick, Eastern Region 2A Regional Representative. Seconded, Dexter Mondor, Eastern Region 3, President, Moose Mountain Local 182. Whereas the Métis are a distinct Indigenous people recognized under Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982, possessing inherent harvesting rights affirmed by the Supreme Court of Canada in R.V. Powley, 2003, and provincial courts in R.V. Morin and Daniel, 1966, R.V. Laviolette, 2005, and R.V. Bellumer, 2007. Whereas the Métis of Saskatchewan have established the Métis Nation Saskatchewan, MNS, as their government mandated to advance collectively held Métis rights, self-government and self-determination for the Métis of Saskatchewan, as well as to represent MNS citizens through democratic governance structures. Whereas harvesting is integral to the distinctive culture of the Métis Nation and remains central to our way of life. Whereas harvesting of fish and game is inherent to our Métis ways of living, being connected to the land, and strengthens Métis identity and perpetuates Métis culture, values, and traditional knowledge. Whereas, although several court cases have affirmed Métis harvesting rights, the province of Saskatchewan the province has not yet affirmed these inherent rights throughout all corners of the province, and in certain areas of Saskatchewan, MNS citizens who have harvest may still face prosecution. Who harvest may still face prosecution. Whereas the MNS has remained committed to negotiating with the province of Saskatchewan on harvesting, and in 2010, the MNS and the province of Saskatchewan signed a memorandum of understanding with the aim of developing an ongoing, respectful, and productive relationship between the MNS and Saskatchewan with respect to Métis food harvesting rights issues, and in 2019 renewed the memorandum with a continued commitment to working together with the understanding that there would be an interim agreement by June 30th, 2020. Whereas in 2022, the MNLA called on the province of Saskatchewan to complete the agreement and policy on Métis sustenance harvesting rights in Saskatchewan and work towards implementation by the fall of 2023, MNLA 2205-2803. Whereas in 1994, the MNLA exercised its authority to create its own laws for itself and enacted the Wildlife and Conservation Act in 1994, which established a self-governing framework reflecting Métis laws, values, and traditional ecological knowledge, and the Act is still an active piece of MNS's legislation. Whereas the MNLA recognizes that effective conservation blends traditional knowledge with science, supported by partnerships with locals, regional councils, elders, youth, and external partners, provided such partnerships respect Métis rights, jurisdiction, and decision-making authority, and these principles should be included in harvesting legislation enacted by the MNLA. Whereas it is advisable to modernize the Wildlife and Conservation Act so that the updated Act will affirm Métis harvesting rights and support inherent rights to self-government and self-determination. And whereas on October 14, 2025, the Eastern Region 2A Regional Council resolved to reaffirm the Métis Nation Saskatchewan's Wildlife and Conservation Act, recognizing it as a foundational piece of Métis law that sets out the seasons, species regulations, and establishes a tribunal for managing our own affairs, while granting the minister the authority to issue licenses. And through this reaffirmation, the Council upholds the Métis Nation's inherent right to self-governance and self-determination in matters relating to wildlife, harvesting, and conservation. Therefore be resolved that the Métis Nation Saskatchewan, MNS, hereby reaffirms and recognizes the inherent and constitutionally protected rights of all Métis citizens under Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982 to hunt, fish, trap, and harvest for food, social, and ceremonial purposes throughout the Métis homeland. Further be it resolved that the reaffirmation and recognition of Métis hunting rights in no ways seeks to diminish or detract from the sections of the province of Saskatchewan where Métis harvesters may hunt without risking prosecution. Further be it resolved that the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly, MNLA, provides a mandate to the MNS to complete harvesting negotiations with the province by June 30, 2026, and strongly encourages the province of Saskatchewan to work with us towards that goal. Further be it resolved that the MNLA affirms Minister of Lands, Resources, Agriculture and Environment authority to develop policies that support the principles and affirm the underlying meaning and purpose of Wildlife and Conservation Act, 1994, to strengthen Métis harvesting and conservation governance. Further be resolved that the MNLA directs the revision of the 1994 Wildlife and Conservation Act, recognizing it as a living expression of Métis law and self-government, and will modernize it in consultation with MNS citizens, harvesters, elders, and youth to reflect current environmental standards, traditional knowledge, and Métis stewardship principles, and to present updated harvesting legislation to the MNLA for enactment by 2027. And be it further resolved that the Minister of Lands, Resources, Agriculture and Environment report back on the status of harvesting negotiations at the next sitting of the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly, including progress towards the conclusion of these negotiations or an alternative strategy for the recognition and advancement of Métis harvesting rights. Minister Lepwick, still so move.
I do, and I'd like to speak to it, please.
Absolutely. Delegate Mondor, still so second.
I do, and I'd also like to speak to it.
Okay, Minister Lepwick first, then Minister Mondor, or President Mondor, and then the list.
Okay, thank you. To start off, would I like to thank the elders, the women, the youth, and all the MNLA here today. It's extremely encouraging to see, you know, everyone working together and moving forward in a good way. We're ahead of agenda today as well. So for over 30 years, the Métis harvesting rights have been subject to ongoing discussions and negotiations with the province of Saskatchewan. Yet many of our citizens still do not have full recognition of their Section 35 rights across the province. Yeah. In 1994, the Métis Nation Saskatchewan Wildlife and Conservation Act laid the foundation for Métis-led wildlife management and conservation, reflecting our nation's vision for sustainable harvesting and responsible stewardship. We'll adjust it here. Better now? A little clearer? Thank you. Okay, I'll just start again on that one part. In 1994, the Métis Nation Saskatchewan Wildlife and Conservation Act laid the foundation for Métis-led wildlife management and conservation, reflecting our nation's vision for sustainable harvesting and responsible stewardship, though it was never fully implemented. As we move forward, while continuing with negotiations, we must also be prepared to take purposeful legal action where necessary. Working with the MNS Legal, the Ministry of Lands, Resources, Agriculture and Environment, and our regional leadership, we will develop a strategic plan to advance, clarify, and affirm Métis Section 35 harvesting rights throughout Saskatchewan, where Métis harvesting rights are not currently recognized. To be clear, this does not affect or diminish the harvesting rights already recognized in northern Saskatchewan. This is about extending the rightful recognition where it is yet to be affirmed. Since this resolution was on agenda but did not make it to the floor at the last MNLA, I would like to propose a couple of amendments to it as well. First, I guess we changed it as it was being read for the date of April 30th to June 30th to allow additional time for meaningful progress with the province of Saskatchewan. And also I've already sent the revised further be resolved to to MNS staff to update, but the revised wording would now include further be it resolved that the MNLA affirms the authority of the Minister of Lands, Resources, Agriculture and Environment, together with a committee consisting of one local president from each of the 12 regions, supported by MNS Department of Environment and MNS Legal Council, to develop policies, strategies, and recommendations consistent with the principles, intent, and underlying purpose of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan Wildlife and Conservation Act, 1994.
Okay, Ms. Lepwick, slow down. Okay, we got to back it up there because she's trying to keep up with your speechifying here. Oh, she tells me she's got it, so keep going. I'll shut up.
Yeah, we were moving forward in a good way today, and I didn't want to hold anything up, so yeah, I submitted the information ahead of time as well, so it should be there. Further be it, further be it resolved that the minister and committee be directed to develop a strategic plan to advance, clarify, and affirm Métis Section 35 harvesting rates throughout Saskatchewan, while continuing to pursue meaningful discussion with the province and respecting the harvesting rights already recognized in Northern Saskatchewan. And this way, this is not part of the further be resolved, but this way we have a plan moving forward, and we're not holding up or delaying it anymore. 30 years and plus has been enough time, so we're moving forward. And I hope we have everybody's support here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and sorry I interrupted you. Delegate Amondor.
This resolution needs to be passed. We have to move forward with harvesting, because as a harvester, I'm tired of being almost secretive of what I do. I want to feed my family. The COs are constantly harassing us, charging us. 2 weeks ago, my vice president was served with a warrant and lost parts of his harvest from over a year ago. They tried to seize his phone. They took pictures from his phone, and they're building a case against him. So if this continues to happen, we can't feed our families. So this needs to move forward, and it's been since 1994 we enacted some laws. So let's start following them, and let's support our citizens and pressure the government to get this dealt with. We're one of the only provinces where Métis don't have harvesting rights. We need to move forward with this.
Thank you, President Mondor. Minister Morasti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as probably one of the best deep freeze hunters in this homeland, I fully support this resolution, Minister and legislators, for the sake that we have to do this based on inherent rights. That's the forefront, that's the lead, and it cannot be based off some wildlife confederation policies. So I fully support this with a friendly amendment, Minister, that we co-lead as per the mandate letter I received from our president, that it is part of the mandate in justice. So I would ask that we co-lead this work, if you'd accept that. Thank you.
Minister Lepwick.
Yes, I would accept that. Thank you.
President Mondor. Okay, he agreed. So add Minister Morasti as co-lead with them? Okay. Okay, she's going to work on that. Thank you. Vice President Leclerc. Oh, sorry. Elder first. Okay, go ahead.
On the bottom there. I was just asking, I want to ask a question about game preserves and stuff like that. Who was in control of the game preserves in a northern area? And how come they just put it on, every time they put a log in a road, right away it's game preserve? So who has the authority to put those game preserves? Because that's a long ways to hunt, 400 meters every time to try and feed our families and stuff like that. Isn't that infringing our Section 35 hunting rights?
Okay, that's a good question. We're going to track down someone that can respond to that. Maybe Ministry of the Environment or the folks more familiar with hunting rights. But we'll get you an answer on that one. Okay. Oh, another elder.
Yeah, thank you so much. This here has always been part of what we are as a people. We were the biggest ranchers in the world. We had 60 or 70 million buffalo that we maintained. We maintained all the harvesting for a few hundred years. We did not diminish. As a matter of fact, when I was a child, my grandmother even told me, it's not time to hunt rabbits now. They're going to have babies. So we learned the conservation laws that were culturally in our culture as Indigenous people. If we talk about distinction and how we can get ourselves educated, I've been a poacher all my life. And I was fatter than this until they took our rights away. I used to be 240 pounds, and I can dance jig really good. I danced with the animals when I used to hunt. And I trapped, you know, and I fished. My dad was a commercial fisherman. And we had teachings. Now my kids, they come to ask me, Dad, I would like to learn how to hunt. And I said, sorry, but the government don't want us to. So how do we continue our cultural ways when we've been silenced, you know? But as poachers, we still survived. And I will continue poaching, and I'll challenge the government. But it's a good thing I have good friends from the north. I eat fish. I just had some good gifts the other day. And I eat muskrat, and I eat all kinds of things. And here in the south, I have elk. I have a First Nation, my nephew, he adopted me as uncle. I give him bannock, and I give him homemade bread, and I eat meat. So we have different ways of doing things. We maintain, because we use that R letter for resiliency, and we make sure that we have a good foundation. As elders here, we sit here, and we've been talking amongst ourselves here, and we're the older people here. We have a 90-year-old person pretty soon, my cousin, and we have some that are way up there, and yet we're the cultural holders. We're the knowledge keepers. And when you're going to go out there in front of the government, you should have us at your table. And also, I've been a community witness in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, Bellamere case, and we won because we came together, and we come together, we could win. And it's about winning, but not only that. My little grandkids, I want them to be able to learn how to tan hides, how to dry meat and fish. I want them to learn, and I can't. I've been silenced. My son asked me, what kind of gun do we use for this? What kind of rifle? What do we use? What kind of nets? I can't tell him because I could, and I do. And then they went hunting with First Nations good friends. And there, you're still breaking the law, you know, as the law tells us. But we're not breaking the law. Those are our own rights we've had since time immemorial. And we have to challenge that. So with that, I'm so much for this. It's time we move this forward. We're being separated north, central, and south through hunting. That's not fair. So let's move forward, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to eat more wild meat and fish, and pick berries, harvesting rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Norman. For any government people listening in, he is obviously talking about poaching eggs. Elder there.
I'm just going to reflect on what Elder Norman said there. I was at home the other day, sitting in the kitchen table, and my grandson phones in, and he said, Papa, he said, I'm coming over. I said, okay. So he come over, and he said, he said, you go through the meetings all the time, the MNLAs and different things. He said, do you guys ever talk about our hunting rights, our gathering rights? I said, yeah. I said, we're working on it. I said, but it's, you know what, he says, I went to get my fishing license. He says, it went up. He says, it's $40-some now just for him to get his fishing license. That's not counting the habitat that we have to pay for and other licenses that we normally get in the fall when we hunt big game. So I think we're working on the right track now, and I hope that we can get some work done on our gathering rights and stuff like that. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Leclerc.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank the elders for their words, because they've lived the life of being told that they're poaching. I support this resolution, but I want to speak to a couple of and I'm going to ask for some friendly amendments. Number one, it's my view, Section 35 is a box of rights. We have never extinguished any of those rights ever. And one of those rights is having the right to harvest. I was one of the council on Bellamere, which we won down in Fort Capel. And we were very, very proud of the fact that we won that case. But people in Fort Capel, Regina, and Environs, that's what they called it, the court case, are still being charged on a daily basis. Their vehicles are being taken away, their equipment is being taken away, and enough is enough. And when I say that, I was charged for fishing last summer. So I was on Lake Diefenbaker, which is most of you know was flooded in the late 50s, 60s. But what flowed through Lake Diefenbaker was the Qu'Appelle River. You go from the Assiniboia to the Qu'Appelle to South Saskatchewan. Those are our traditional harvesting routes. Those are our traditional trading routes that my family has been traveling on, and my uncle Norman Fleury can affirm this, from Fort Ellis, St. Lazare, up to a wintering spot of Brown Prairie, and up to Batoche. That officer told me that we have no rights on Lake Diefenbaker. So of course, poke the bear, I gave him a little bit of a history lesson and told him that I had been the lawyer on Bellamere. They charged me, and 2 weeks later they pulled the charge. But not all of our citizens have that same historical knowledge or that legal knowledge. Enough is enough. What I would ask my friend and my colleague to do is take the June 30th, 2026 out of that therefore be it resolved. What we're doing is two things here. We're saying we want to develop our own ways. We want to ensure that we have legislation within our own government to speak about those Section 35 rights, to establish the process, to ensure that we're being stewards of the land and the animals. And we need to do that. But we're also then putting a timeline saying, Saskatchewan, you decide by June 30th what our rights are. Enough is enough. We are a nation of people. We have held these rights. We hold these rights. And Jim Sinclair used to say to people when they'd say, Jim, you know, I don't have these rights. He used to say, you have that right. Go out and practice those rights. Now, I think in good faith, we need to negotiate with Saskatchewan. But they're trying to limit the amount of animals. They're trying to limit where you can and cannot fish. I mean, we're past Powley. We've got, Warren Boyer, one of our heroes, our legal heroes in here. I want to acknowledge him. He is fighting to ensure that all people in Saskatchewan, all Métis people in Saskatchewan have the equal right to hunt and fish and harvest in this province, not just in the north. And I applaud you for that. But we can't do two things in this resolution. We can't say, Saskatchewan, what's our rights? And then at the same time say, we have those rights, we're the ones that determine that. So I would ask the mover and seconder to take that out, and that we really support this motion by establishing what our own rights are. And I am 100% in support of this motion, obviously, But I would ask that you take out a timeline on the negotiation, because I think we will negotiate, but on our terms, not theirs. Thank you.
So, thank you, Vice President. So just remove the June 30, 2026 was your request, Vice President? June 30th? Mr. Lepwick?
Yes, I have no problem with that, and actually, it's a very good idea. And also, just to clarify as well, the M&S, in discussion with M&S staff and with Matt as well, that M&S will find and provide the funding necessary to support our Métis citizens moving forward with the harvesting cases as well.
Excellent. Thank you. And Mr. Mondor has also agreed. Thank you. Sheena Devine.
The biggest thing that I wanted to speak to was just removing that date. So with that gone, I speak in support of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Wendy Gervais, Minister Gervais.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ooh. VP Leclerc took the words right out of my mouth regarding Section 35 and our rights and so on. The only couple questions I have is, I know that we're in the middle of negotiations. I'd like to know who the committee is who's negotiating it, number one. And if you don't want to say names, you can just send them to us, email them to us. I think we should have that so we know who's there. The other thing is the date, which is VP Leclerc already clarified. And I really think that whenever we're finished with the negotiations, before we sign off on them, it is the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly that needs to have access to that final report of negotiations so that we can determine at that time whether we move forward with that. And other than that, all the questions have been answered. I support it, and I'm going to end it with this. VP Leclerc is absolutely correct. Our Section 35 rights are there. It's not up to anyone else to determine it. It's up to us to go and take it, practice it, and assert our rights. With that, I call question.
Question's been called. Is there a seconder? Sheena Devine on the second. So we'll have to get the poll up for question.
Could I make a quick comment here?
Who be that?
Rachel Frericks.
Oh, yes, you, President.
I just wanted a commitment from Minister Lepwick that the committee would include youth and elders. I think that would be very important. That was going to be my point. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lepwick?
Yes, thank you, Rachel. Youth President Rachel.
Speak closer to the mic, Minister.
Yes, thank you, Youth President Rachel Heiser. Ferrix. That was an oversight on my part, and I apologize about that. Definitely elders and youth should have been.
Denise McKenzie. Can we add women in there also?
Yes.
It's missing.
I was just going to mention that as well. The women should be added on there as well. Thank you. And one other question that did come up was in regards to the HOG committee. That's the Harvesting Advisory Working Group that's in place right now with the M&S. They were not mentioned here as part of the group because they're non-political. And if we form a political or a committee consisting of presidents and political positions, it'll be for government-to-government negotiations going forward. But we'll still take consultation and advice from the HOG group as well. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. We have a resolution on the floor to question.
Yeah.
Can we move on to the vote, please?
Yes, we can. But the point of order that Minister Friesen wants to make is that he can't direct himself to put a person on the committee. Is that what you're saying, Minister Friesen? I don't understand your point. Could you turn on your mic, please?
Sorry, folks. I just have a question. In the resolution, it states direct the Minister of Environment to do this and this and this, and several of the therefore be it resolved. So I'm questioning the validity of that, and if the minister himself can make the motion and then direct himself. So having said that, I would ask that we ask for a different mover.
I'll
I'm in
move
support of the
that, Rachel
resolution.
Frericks.
There you go. So Youth President Frericks is now the mover. Mr. Mondor, you still second? Okay, you're comfortable, everybody's good. Question has been called. Thank you for that clarity, Minister Friesen. And now let's vote.
Mr. Chair, just for clarity, there's co-leading ministers now, right? It's in there?
Yeah, it was put on.
Thank you.
Yeah. Passed unanimously. All right, we are right on schedule, my friends. Connecting locals to MNS citizens, locals and citizens, moved by Tanya Nall Gates, Local 103, seconded Dexter Mondor, Local 182. Whereas the Constitution of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan and Article 7.1 states that locals shall be the basic unit of the organization in each community, and locals are essential hubs of information, offer community-level programming, and promote kinship and a sense of belonging. Whereas since 2021, all MNS citizens are registered through the Central Registry as outlined in the Métis Nation Saskatchewan Citizenship Act, Article 6.1, and no longer through locals, which has unintentionally created a disconnect between locals and MNS citizens. And whereas, despite local status as the basic unit of organization for MNS, presently the majority of MNS citizens are not members of locals. Whereas the MNLA recognizes and upholds that the protection of MNS citizens' personal information is essential, and desires that this be included as a central principle in connecting locals with MNS citizens. Therefore, be it resolved that the MNLA calls on the MNS to develop a plan to connect locals with MNS citizens in their catchment areas, recognizing that locals are the basic unit of government for the MNS, and directs that the plan be brought back for the MNLA for their review within 2 years. Further be it resolved that the MNLA directs that the plan to connect locals to MNS citizens include, at a minimum, the following principles and elements. Uphold locals as integral to the MNS government. Number 2, recommendations for development of policies and procedures or updates to existing policies and procedures to ensure that MNS citizens' personal information is protected in connecting locals with MNS citizens. Identification of systems or mechanisms to allow for data sharing. 4, digital infrastructure and other capacity requirements for locals to safely store and utilize data. 5, training and resources for locals to ensure secure and appropriate handling of data. 6, identification of new MNS legislation, as well as amendments to existing MNS legislation that may be advisable or necessary to implement the plan. 7, financial breakdown and cost estimates for implementation. Further be it resolved that the MNLA calls on the MNS to support locals in the development of policies, procedures, and resources that will strengthen data governance and management in order for them to effectively and securely maintain and build their membership lists, and to offer these supports as soon as feasible. Further be it resolved that the MNLA directs that connecting locals with MNS citizens be a priority in the development of new legislation such as the Locals and Regions Act, as well as amendments to existing legislation to be brought forward to the MNLA for enactment. Tanya Nall Gates, still so move.
Yes, and I'd like to speak to this as well.
You betcha. Dexter Mondor, still so second.
Yes, and I'd like to speak to it as well.
Okay, your first two off. Ms. Gates, Null Gates, you're up.
So based on our conversations on Friday that we had in the afternoon, and with several conversations with presidents and a member of the executive, I'd like to make one amendment to this, which is in the first, therefore be it resolved. The last part of that paragraph directs the plan be brought back to the MNLA for their review and possible resolution by the fall 2026 sitting of the MNLA. So shorten the time frame that this plan be implemented.
Mr. Mondor, you're good with that change, I assume? Okay. Did you want to speak any more to it, Ms. Null Gates? No? Okay. Mr. Mondor.
I don't know who my citizens are. My region, or my local, is not based in a town. It's a geographical region of Moose Mountain Provincial Park. When I look at a map, I am the closest local to 53 towns in a square area of almost 20,000 kilometers. So if some of our funding and our programs are based on who I have as citizens, how do I reach out to them? How do I share that information? Because unfortunately, MNS does a bad job of sharing information. It's on social media. So there needs to be some sort of plan on how I can connect to my citizens. I'm not originally from my area. So there's many people that are underserved because of this disconnect, and that needs to be corrected.
Thank you. Minister Morasti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And since being appointed Minister of Self-Determination, Self-Government, we have come in with a vision. And that vision includes locals, regions, and PMC Act, along with an executive branch. And that was based off listening to citizens far and wide, and as well members of this assembly. So that work is in motion, and I fully support this resolution because of that. As a member that is born and raised in Lacrosse, or Sagatawak as we call it at home, no government, no policy, or nobody outside of who I am will dictate where I come from. I know where I belong. I know where my heart is set. Ladies and gentlemen, I fully support this resolution, and I ask you to do the same.
Thank you, Minister. Minister Gervais.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the mover and seconder on this. This is a long time coming. As former Minister of the Registry, as far back as 2019, we've requested this, and it's been unfortunate that the communication has been, I guess, miscomboggled somewhere or bottlenecked somewhere. But when we don't know who our citizens are at the local level and at the regional level, how do we serve those citizens? So I absolutely 150% support this resolution. However, I'm asking for actually two small amendments. The first one would be, when we therefore be it resolved that the MNLA, I think that's the first therefore, it says connect locals with MNS citizens. So the three large urban centers are just beginning a discussion of what an urban council would look like and the makeup of that and how we would create that. So I would ask that a small recommendation would be connect locals and or urban councils, because we don't know what the makeup of that's going to look like, right? So we just want to ensure that urban councils are included in that. Would you be willing to make that friendly amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. And the other one is, and I know the urgency of this, but you had stated the fall MNLA. I'm wondering if you'd make an amendment to the spring 2027. I know it sounds like we're pushing it back, but we all know we're just in the process of, I'm really tired of the word resetting, but we're all kind of, again, coming together to try to restructure some of the things that are going on. And we have the locals in, is it the locals unit or whatever? And so I think we need to give our administration, our staff, an opportunity to be able to rejig some of this. Would you be willing to make that amendment?
We'd just like to talk about that for a second.
Sure.
So, do I say something about that right now? Okay, we just got a, because urban councils aren't constitutionally recognized. I know they're made up of locals, so they just gotta check.
It's in the Constitution 6.1, urban councils.
Urban councils?
Yes,
Oh.
it is.
Oh, okay, just 1 second, they're just trying to get an
Yeah,
opinion.
we don't know what that configuration's gonna look like. It's just discussed, right?
Yeah.
That's why we need to include it in here.
Okay, yep.
'Kay.
It's in there for now, but they're just also just getting, there's a little, oh, so it's 1 second. And did you already talk about the second one?
Yeah, they're just discussing it. We just asked them to move it. I just asked them to move it to the spring session of 2027. So
Okay.
that's a year. And I'm just saying for administrative purposes, from our staff purposes, to give everyone an opportunity, step back and have those discussions.
Okay.
We're right around we're pretty well on the eve of our November MNLA, so it's rushed.
True.
Consulted and agreed spring 2027.
Awesome, thank you very much. I support this with the amendments, 1,000%. Long time coming, thank you.
Okay, thank you. There, I'll get that date switch from fall 2026 to the spring 2027 MNLA, and they're just getting a quick thing on the urban councils, but we should be good.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, Legislative Assembly. Thank you for the suggestion, Minister Jarve. But the thing is, the urban councils don't, from a constitutional standpoint, do not exist yet. There's a consultation process that's taking place with the locals from Prince Albert, Saskatoon, and Regina to explore options for the creation of urban councils. So I would suggest that that amendment not go in. And as part of future discussions with constitutional reform and the urban councils, then you can have those discussions further. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
I'd like to speak to that.
Yeah, Minister Gervais.
Sorry. Gerald, you might want to come back. With all, am I on here? With all due respect, Gerald, I respect your advice and I respect, the fact that you were part of the creation of this. 6.1 of the Constitution states urban councils. It doesn't speak to the makeup or how it is. We just had our first meeting with discussions. You and I spoke on Saturday morning, and you and I talked about that we don't know what it's going to look like, and we even discussed, let's start a pilot. So I don't think I'm asking for anything other than to recognize that the urban councils are in the Constitution. We are recognizing there's locals, but under that, it speaks to urban councils, and I really think we're making a big mistake by not including them in there, because we don't know if the urban councils, I know in PA they have 3 locals that are come together for the urban councils. So how do you connect the citizens to those 3 locals in a fairness, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is the citizens should be connected to the urban council, and that urban council will introduce the 3 locals.
Okay.
I think it's important that we
Thank you.
keep it in there. Thank you.
Ms. Nalgates.
Sorry, I know I said I agreed with that. We both said we agreed with it, but now that we've heard that they don't exist yet, which, I mean, I knew, but I hadn't internalized that, and that the councils will be formed based on the locals, we'd like to withdraw our agreement to that amendment, but keep the part of the spring 2027 MNLA, which as Jocelyn pointed out in one of her earlier amendments, this could be revisited when the urban councils are part of the Constitution.
Thank you. Denise McKenzie.
Thank you. I'd just like to speak to that bottom part here where it says, further be resolved that the MNLA directs that connecting locals with M&S citizens be a priority. Now, we as the women, we don't want to be left behind. And I am one of 12 directors in our regions for LFDM, Métis Women of Saskatchewan. But firstly, I'm a proud Métis woman, grandmother, and mother. My parents were both Métis. My grandfather fought in World War I. He could speak 5 languages: Michif, Cree, Soto, French, and English. He was born in St. Laurent, Manitoba, and he had to flee with his family across Lake Winnipeg North. They were fleeing from the Redcoats. That was in their words. So all of us here today are one people. As one people, mothers, grandmothers, daughters, granddaughters, fathers, grandfathers, sons, and grandsons. Together we are a strong unit with a shared purpose for our people. Our energy together can overcome the massive challenges we face each day, building resilience in our communities, and strive for meaningful change far beyond what a single person can achieve alone. I have been privileged to work with a great team of women. Saying this, my question, is it not time to have our women in our regions to be sitting on the regional boards, as well as our youth and elder reps? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's not it doesn't speak to this motion, but thank you. Treasurer Denemy.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Being, yes.
I just to kind of attach what Member McKenzie was saying, I think it's recommending that when we talk about in that further be it resolved, that it's not just locals in like in the development of new legislation such as the Locals and Regions Act. We work on connecting locals with citizens, absolutely, but also citizens and locals with not only the provincial youth, but also LFDM. So just kind of clarifying the intention behind that statement.
So you're asking for a friendly amendment to add the women onto here? I'll leave that
Yes.
to the mover and seconder.
With respect, I decline the friendly amendment, or we decline the friendly amendment, and we would encourage the Fille de Madeleine and the representatives and women's and the youth to bring forth their own resolutions.
Thank you. Treasurer Denemy.
Citizens and members of this assembly, today as the Métis Nation Saskatchewan Treasurer, I strongly support this resolution. It's been a long time in coming. This is about inclusion. This is about belonging. This is about reconnecting our nation from the ground up. Our Constitution is clear. Locals are the basic unit of our government in each community, but we have created a gap where many of our citizens are registered centrally but not connected to the local where they live, where they raise their families, where they need services, and where they should have a voice. This resolution directly addresses that gap by calling for a plan to connect locals with Métis Nation Saskatchewan citizens in their catchment areas and to bring the required legislative work back to the MNLA. So let me be clear, locals cannot service citizens they cannot see. Locals cannot support citizens if they don't know who they are. Locals cannot build community when the connection between the citizen and the local has been broken. This is also critical to our fiscal financing agreement negotiations. If we're going to be negotiating seriously with Canada, we need to know where our citizens live, how they are connected, what communities they belong to, and what the capacity our locals require to serve them. Strong data supports strong negotiations. Strong locals support strong government. Strong connections support a strong nation. This resolution is not just administrative, it is nation-building. It directs the work that must happen, systems, capacity, training, costs, and legislative amendments needed to make this real, including bringing the necessary work back to the spring 2027 MNLA for approval. We cannot continue building a government disconnected from its grassroots. Our citizens deserve to be connected. Our locals deserve to be strengthened. They deserve the capacity. Our nation deserves to move forward together. I strongly encourage the Assembly to support this resolution, and I call question.
Question has been called. Is there a seconder? Please state your name on the microphone.
Curtis Pelche.
Second by Curtis Pelche. We'll get the poll up for question.
Point of order, Rachel Frericks.
Yes, Youth President.
Shouldn't the Minister of Communities and Locals be tied to this in some capacity?
Okay, well.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
may, on that point of order.
And the Minister responsible of self-determination and government as well.
As per yesterday's resolution, we are both co-leading this work. Yes.
Okay.
Just for clarification, yeah.
Okay, so question's been called. We'll get the vote up now.
Voting? Mr. Chair,
Yes, Max?
just something, because I used to be,
Can we wait until the votes are done, Max, and then we'll...
okay, I thought because I'll wait until after the vote.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So carried. 84 in favor, 3 against. Congratulations. Okay, Max, I'll turn it over to
Okay,
the
yeah,
elders table.
just a point, the registry, I used to be responsible for the registry, but there's a lot of confidential information in the applications, even the genealogy stuff and everything like that, and I don't think the registry can share that information and stuff like that. I think it's really critical that we find another mechanism to get the locals, maybe ask the members in our communities to sign something and become members of it. I don't know. Like, I have my Métis card. I can go to my local in Lacrosse and say, I want to be a member of your local. But if we get it directly from the registry, there's a lot of confidential information that was shared with the individual. So how do we send? How do we do that? That's probably why they're not sharing with the locals.
Yeah, good point, Max, and they're absolutely going to follow all the privacy rules. Do you want to address this, Ms. Nolkates?
Yes, so to be clear, the resolution that we just passed in no way decentralizes the central registry. Personally, as a president, I don't want to be responsible for that process, so we will have no access. This in no way provides us with access to genealogical records. And in the further it be resolved, sections 1 through 7 clearly lays out that this is to be done, within the processes for the registry that are already held. just gives us access to, secure access to who the citizens are so that we can reach out to them in a meaningful way. So we do not want to destabilize the registry, like, at all.
Thank you for the
Can I make a
explanation.
point of order?
Who is speaking?
Michelle.
Oh, yes.
I just want to encourage anyone who is making a resolution not, to be inclusive. I just heard the mover, and I appreciate the resolution, I support it, but told women and youth should make their own resolution. We need to be inclusive here. And the youth and the women are important. And I want to encourage also for us to include the LGBTQIA+ and gender diverse community in any resolution that we do, because it's important that we are inclusive. And if we're talking about a reset and we're talking about doing all of that, it's important to ensure that every one of our citizens is included and no one is left behind.
Okay, thank you. Great discussion. And folks, we are on agenda time. Yes, we are. And so it's 11:59. Is there an elder designated for Grace? Okay, Caroline. And then, folks, once Grace is over, please allow the elders and the delegates first into the lunch area. We'll reconvene at 1 o'clock. And then when we reconvene at 1, Elder Don Mongrand wanted to have a statement.
Merci Kakiao for being here today. I ask God to be here with us today on the homeland of the Métis on Treaty 6 territory. I thank Him for getting us all here safely and to get us back home safely. I ask God to bless the food we are about to share and thank Mother Earth for providing. Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bounty, through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Hello, can I just say something? Brendan, it's chicken.